Hi, I'm Matt Shepard. Coming up on this edition of Shep Shower and Shave, buying in or throwing shade. We could only be talking about the Detroit Lions, right? That's coming up on this edition, on a Tuesday edition of Shep Shower and Shave. We're brought to you by Northwestern Tech. Individuals that are entering the HVAC field are seeing their pay potential go way up, and they're able to choose the companies that's going to help grow their careers. But in order for you to do that, you got to get your career started. Where do you go? You go to Northwestern Tech. It's the HVAC school that gets you trained, certified, and into the field in only 10 and a half months. We're brought to you by Nate Knopf Designs. Find his work on Instagram or on Facebook. He designed the Shep Shower and Shave logo that we're proud of. And Hungry Howie's is a sponsor of our podcast as well. Support Hungry Howie's. They are the Michigan-based pizza company known as the original flavored crust pizza. Also has the best fundraiser called Dough Raiser. Did you know families eat pizza at least once a week? So it's an easy sell for your sports groups, for your band, for some type of organization at your school. You can sell Hungry Howie's pizza certificates and raise a ton of money for your organizations. All you got to do is go to doughraiser.com. Lions are 2-0. There's 8 teams in the NFL that can boast such a start. Do you buy in right now, or are you carefully treading lightly? I get the latter, for sure. Immediately when we usually talk about the Lions, the focus, the scope, goes to Matthew Stafford. And that might be the case for every football team and every market. I'm sure in New York today, they are pissed off at not just Ben McAdoo, but also Eli Manning. Maybe they conveniently forget about the drop that Odell Beckham had, or the 2 that Brandon Marshall had, or the ridiculous penalty on Evan Engram that allowed Detroit, especially after the kickoff went out of bounds, to get the ball at the 45-yard line of New York. Ridiculous, right? A rookie grabbing his crotch, doing something stupid. Will he learn from it? You hope so. But if I'm a teammate, I am pissed because we get even and then you pull that kind of stunt. But most people will be frustrated, upset, and done with Eli Manning. It is a what have you done for me lately type of situation. There are people, no doubt, in some of these other markets, Cincinnati specifically, that are tired of Andy Dalton. So the quarterback talk is pretty consistent. For us, here in Detroit, Matt Stafford with 6 touchdown passes, that's great. But the bottom line is this team is 2-0 primarily because of its balance. And I mean offense, defense, and special teams. Matt Prater, obviously, and you saw what he did last night. He drilled a 56-yard field goal. That means he's hit 38 from 50 or longer in his NFL career. That's pretty damn good. The all-time leader, I tweeted this out, the all-time leader is Sebastian Janikowski of the Raiders. He's done it 55 times. Right behind him is Jason Hansen. Jason Hansen has done it 52 times. So Matt Prater is getting closer and closer. He's tied with Phil Dawson. He's 1 behind Jason Elam. He is 6th all-time in that category. But it's really, you look at Jamal Agnew. Look at that return, that 88-yard punt return that sealed the deal for Detroit in the victory that gets them to 2-0. 88 yards, that's the 5th longest in Lions history. He's the first rookie to have such a return since Eddie Drummond in December of 2002. And the longest in Lions history since December of 2003. But it's the defense that has impressed me more than anything else. My main concern in calling the preseason games with Chris Spielman and getting ready for the regular campaign was, where are you going to get a pass rush? How are you going to get to the quarterback? If Ziggy Ansah, who didn't practice, let alone play during the preseason, can't return to 2014 form when he had 14 and a half sacks, 2015 form, how in the world are you going to be able to get to the quarterback? Because as much as I like Anthony Zettel out of West Branch, Penn State, 20 career sacks there at State College, he only had 1 career sack going in, but he was so good during the preseason. And he had an opening day sack, too, against Carson Palmer. Last night, the Lions had 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and another takeaway. 2nd in the league in takeaways already. That's big, man. You win the turnover battle on the season, you're going to go places. It's something Detroit has to do. But Ziggy Ansah returning with 3 sacks, and he leapfrogs James Hall now for Detroit's all-time sack leader, because Ziggy Ansah, he's not their all-time sack leader. You know it's Robert Porcher, right? Okay, good. Just want to make sure there, because you don't want to forget too many of those guys. Next up is Ndamukong Suh, but if you remember, James Hall played with Shawn Rodgers a little bit during that era, right? From 2000 through 2006, he had 33 sacks. Ziggy Ansah now with 35, one away, and he ties Ndamukong Suh for 6th all time. It goes Porcher number 1, Mike Kofer, who played all the way the early 80s, mid-80s to the early 90s, Tracy Scroggins, 92 through 2001, then Bill Gay, he was late 70s through the 80s, then Cliff Averill, then Ndamukong Suh, and now Ziggy Ansah. He will end up being, if he stays healthy and stays here long term, Detroit's all-time sack leader. Robert Porcher's at 95.5. You got to have a long career. You have to be healthy. You have to be happy and productive. Ziggy Ansah has a chance to do that. So he returned to his form last night. And in addition to that, and it's not just sacking the quarterback, it's pressuring the quarterback. Look, we saw this opening week against Arizona. We saw the pressure come from up the middle. Well, guess what? Haloti Ngata had a sack last night. Jared Davis had a sack last night. Cornelius Washington didn't have a sack, but Cornelius Washington put some serious pressure on the quarterback. Those are the things that are required. Hell of a job by Terrell Austin. I mean, a hell of a job. Jim Bob Cooter gets a ton of credit, and deservedly so, because he's a really strong offensive coordinator. So strong, Detroit is 17-9 since he's taken over. That's the second best record in the NFC during that stretch and the 5th best in the NFL. Only Seattle's 17-8-1 record is better. That's pretty impressive. But Terrell Austin, finding different ways to get to the quarterback, knowing that he doesn't have that quote-unquote stud rusher until Ziggy Ansah became healthy again, finding different ways to get there. I was worried that the linebackers would not be able to get home. Well, Jared Davis and the Lions linebackers did just that. So I give him a ton of credit. Love the play. Glover Quinn made some really nice plays. Miles Killebrew, I said this a year ago when they drafted him out of Southern Utah. He's a stud, and he's going to be a starter for this team, and he will be soon. You got a lockdown quarter at Darius Slay. You've got a sideline-to-sideline linebacker in Jared Davis, and you've got a pass rusher in Ziggy Ansah. You have the makings of an outstanding defense. Now, will it be as good as the best defense we've seen in recent Lions memory, when this team won 11 games in 2014? Probably not. Because that team, well, maybe I shouldn't say probably not, but I think that defense is better than this defense. But we'll have to wait and see. I love, more than anything else, more than the ability to get to the quarterback, the ability to sniff out the run, the ability to blitz, the ability to cover, I love the fact that this team is now viewed as a very good tackling football team. When's the last time you heard about something like that? The thing that you respect most, or at least that I respect most, about really good defenses, Baltimore in the past, New England recently, Kansas City recently, hell, even Arizona a year ago, Carolina a couple of years ago, Denver. Did you watch Denver play Dallas the other night? They beat the shit out of Dallas. You know why? I mean, Von Miller can pressure the quarterback, but also because they force you to throw underneath a little bit. They make tackles. There's no yak. There's no yards after the catch, yards after contact. Detroit, for the first time in a long time, is viewed as a team that wraps up. They don't go for the kill shots. They wrap up. That's what's impressed me the most in the first couple of weeks about this Lions team. Now, offensively, look, Matt Stafford throws for 122 yards. It's the fewest he's thrown for in a win in his career. Who cares? He throws a couple of touchdown passes, a beautiful throw to Marvin Jones. And Jones went up and got it. It's not a back shoulder throw. I saw people on Twitter. What a back shoulder throw. Folks, you don't throw a back shoulder throw by throwing air underneath it. A back shoulder throw is thrown on a rope. All right? But anyway, that was impressive. perhaps the most impressive play was turned in by Eric Ebron. And I know you don't like him, but he's valuable to this offense. Valuable to stretch the field, valuable because he's a mismatch. But what he did on his touchdown catch is not something he would have done when he first came into the league. When he first came into the league, he would have run the route, and in case you were wondering, he's on the left side, and he just runs a little crossing route, a little square in, if you will. He keeps going. He sees his quarterback rolling, so he keeps going. In the past, he might have stopped. Well, my route's supposed to stop me right about here. He keeps going with his quarterback to help his quarterback's sight line. That was really impressive. That's growth by a young player. That's also good coaching. Now, I know you have issues with certain things about Jim Caldwell. I don't know what you could possibly be upset with about the game against New York. Maybe you felt like he got a little conservative after halftime. At some point in our society, I don't know when it was, but we feel like conservative play calling is running the football. Not if you're checking out of it. If you're the quarterback and you're checking out of it and you're running away from the blitz, that's a pretty good idea, don't you think? I do. Now, it's a fine line because I would like to see them throw it more. And the reason I'd like to see them throw it more is because their best player is throwing the football. Matthew Stafford's their best football player. I want the ball in his hands. All due respect to Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick and Dwayne Washington and anybody else who wants to tote the rock, I feel better with Matthew Stafford throwing it than handing it off. That said, there is something to the argument that you've got to establish a running game. And I can't even remember the last time in a win Detroit attempted more runs than passes and rushed for more yards than they threw. I don't care as long as they get it, because I thought Stafford was exceptional against the Giants. Forget about the 122. Who cares? His decision-making, throwing the football away, running with the football, ordering guys. I mean, did you see the one time during the timeout where he's upset at Marvin Jones and I believe it was Kenny Golladay for not running a certain route? And you could see Marvin Jones nodding. He's saying, yeah, you're right, it's on me. He's not afraid to choose somebody's ass. That's really good. Doesn't have to do it every single time. He doesn't have to be rah-rah. He doesn't have to gather the troops in a huddle and say, we're going to take this ball down there and we're going to score. Look at me. Everybody, look at me in the eye. You got to believe in me. What? They believe in him because he gets it done. They believe in him because they know they've got a better chance to win with him than anybody else. And by the way, passed Drew Brees last night for 7th most passing yards in a player's first 9 seasons. You don't care about that. I get it. You want wins. I get it. Interesting. That's why I brought up the 17-9 since Jim Bob Cooter took over. Interesting, isn't it, that they have won. Now, they haven't won the playoff game that you want, nor I want. They haven't gone deeper. They haven't won the division like I think they should be able to have accomplished by now. But they are winning some games. And those are not all against teams that stink either, because that's the next thing we get. It was an unimpressive win. A friend of mine, Carlos Monterez, who writes for the newspaper, it was an unimpressive win. Why is that? Because the Giants are terrible. I see. Now here's what football players now have to do. Football players now have to not only win, not only beat a team that you think warrants praise, but they also have to impress you at the same time. So my guess is many people feel like, well, the Chiefs played the Eagles way too close. Sorry, doesn't count. I'm sorry, the Panthers win over Buffalo doesn't really count in my mind because they settled for 3 field goals and they beat a bad Buffalo team 9-3, and it took them at home to do it. That's how people are going to view it now. I'm serious. Sorry, Seattle. You get 4 field goals. Actually, it wasn't. Russell Wilson had a touchdown late. But you had a couple of field goals and 1 touchdown. You only had 12 points. You beat the Niners 12-9. You only beat them by a field goal. That's not worthy of any praise. Oh, you can nitpick all you want. It's fair because Seattle didn't look good. And guess what? Carolina doesn't look good. But my guess is, right now, Ron Rivera's going, I don't give a crap. We're 2-0. Live and fight for another day. Let's move on. We'll take it. Because there's a lot of other teams, like Chicago, for example, who just got run by Tampa, down in Tampa's season opener. There's a lot of teams that are going, you know what? I'd love to be 2-0, no matter how I get it. Kansas City, really impressive against New England, right? Little shaky against the Eagles. You don't think they'll take it? I mean, they needed 14 points in the fourth to seal it. They'll take the 7-point win. Folks, this is the NFL, okay? Somebody on social media sent something to me the other day about the Lions not winning more comfortably. They're not impressing them. My response was, hey, man, do you watch the NFL at all? Let me give you an example. The Texans beat the Bengals 13-9. That's a one-possession game. The Cardinals beat the Colts. I know, Jacoby Brissett's there. Scott Tolzien was the first week. They weren't very good. You took a good look at the Cardinals in the first week. You don't think they're very good. They still got the win on the road. They beat the Colts by 3. One-possession game. Chiefs beat the Eagles by 7. One-possession game. Panthers beat the Bills by 6. One-possession game. Okay? Dolphins edged the Chargers by 2. One-possession game. Redskins over the Rams by 7. One-possession game. Seahawks trimmed the Niners by 3. One-possession game. That's 7 games. That's 7 games I just gave to you where it's one possession, no matter who it is. I do Lions Live with Rob Rubik and Lomas Brown every postgame for the Lions. And while we're watching it, they give me a great education on it. It's so flippin' hard to win in the NFL. You may not think that because you look at certain teams and you look at certain rosters, you go, oh, man, that team sucks. Well, give me a break, man. Come on, you should beat them. It shouldn't even be that close. Bull crap. It's really hard because you need 11 guys at one time pulling together to make something successful. The NFL has you and I exactly where it wants us. We keep coming back because the games are so close. Because it takes a last-second drive to seal the deal for a guy like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson does it, oh, man, he's a baller. He's a gamer. Matt Stafford does it 29 times, and you're like, God dang, man, why don't you make it a little bit more comfortable? Why does it always take you to come back to get something done? That's ridiculous. No, it isn't. It's just the NFL, man. That's just the way it is. Tom Brady's got plenty of comeback wins. Peyton Manning's got plenty of comeback wins. Joe Montana, Drew Brees, they all have comeback wins, and a lot of them. And you know why? Because they're really freaking good. So Jim Caldwell coaches his 50th game for Detroit. They win. He's 29-21. Ironically enough, his first win as a Lions head coach came on Monday night against the Giants, and he picks up his 29th win in 50 tries. Second best 50-game start for a Lions coach ever. Now I can't help but wonder, does he get the extension? Does he deserve the extension right now? I wouldn't give it to him right now. He doesn't feel the need to have it right now. I know some people feel like, oh, there's a little bit of a dilemma because Jim Bob Cooter and Terrell Austin aren't feeling completely comfortable because they don't have their extensions. They're with Jim Caldwell, so on and so. Folks, these guys are wrapped up in trying to devise a game plan for almost 20 hours of every day. And they barely get a chance to soak in and lather up after a nice win. They may think about it on the plane on the way back. They get a little shut-eye the next day. This morning, they're waking up. They're already on, if they weren't already, to Atlanta. By the way, a team that should have lost opening week against Chicago. But they didn't. Because Matt Ryan did what? Brought him back, and the defense actually held. Wasn't on Mike Glennon. But anyway, they probably should have lost. They probably should be 1-1. But they're 2-0, and everyone's like, oh, Lions are going to get their ass kicked. Why do you say that? Well, Atlanta's 2-0. They're the defending NFC champions. They just beat the snot out of Green Bay. Oh, okay. Green Bay was missing both its tackles, 2 corners, and Atlanta was opening at home. Brand new building, NFC trophy, all the things that go into the emotional uplift. A week ago, you're going, man, Atlanta should have lost to Chicago, if you watched that game at all. A week later, you're going, Lions are going to get their ass kicked. Why do you say that? Well, just look at what, it's built-in credibility. You believe Green Bay is a more difficult opponent. You believe they're the team to beat in the division. You believe Atlanta beat them and actually manhandled them. And Aaron Rodgers looked pedestrian. So you think automatically they're going to do the same thing to the Lions. Not true. Just not true, man. Because the Lions are at home. And I'm not going to make this prediction that they're going to win right now, but the Lions are at home. That could be a high-scoring game. Lions defense feels really good about itself, and it should. And Atlanta has some scars. They have some weaknesses. They're not a perfect team. Folks, they went 11-5 last year and made it to the Super Bowl. Let's not act like it was a Tom Brady-led New England Patriot regular season perfect 16-0, okay? They have some weaknesses, and so does Detroit. I'm not asking you, suggesting that you buy in. I'm asking you to look at the 2 weeks against 2 good defenses. I think when all is said and done, these 2 defenses are going to be pretty good. I think New York's got some talent, and I know, look, Shep, they're without Janoris Jenkins. One of their tackles got injured early on. Okay, Detroit's left tackle's been hurt so far this season. Are you willing to give that any credence whatsoever? No? Why not? It's a pretty important position, don't you think? If they go into the Atlanta game and there's no Jared Davis and there's no Amir Abdullah because of injuries in the game against the Giants, are you willing to give them a little bit of leeway? Hell no, you're not. You know why? You're going to say, next man up. I get it. You're going to say, teams are supposed to build depth. You're supposed to be able to get by with something like that. Okay, fine. Why don't you use that same logic with whomever the Lions play/beat? But I'm not asking you to necessarily buy in. I'm asking you to objectively, and that's a difficult thing to do, objectively look at this team and see where it's better than a year ago. Eric Ebron healthy, wasn't last year. Abdullah healthy, wasn't last year. 2 guys on the right side, TJ Lang, Rick Wagner, who both I thought played very well. There was a penalty on TJ Lang that I thought was an absolute joke, but I thought both of them played very well. They've upgraded the right side of your offensive line. Did you see Riley Reif play for Minnesota over the weekend? Did you take some time? Look, I know you got a lot of stuff going on in your life. You're raking leaves, you're trimming trees, you're cutting the grass, so on and so forth. But every once in a while, don't be afraid to pop in and check out a game. If you watched any other games this past weekend, instead of just reading about them, but if you watched them and you said to yourself, I want to see how Riley Reif plays against the Steelers, you would have come away going, wow, I'm glad they didn't re-sign him. And he's playing the left side. Case Keenum was not very good for Minnesota. A lot of that had to do with the offensive line. I would also remind you, too, for a team that's supposedly, has a really good running back, and Dalvin Cook was outstanding in college, that's a team that struggled to run the football. I mean, he had a 25-yard sprint, which is really nice. Everything else, guess what it ended up? 39 yards. So he had 11 carries for 39 yards and 1 carry for 25. That ain't special. There's nothing special about that, man. Okay? I'm just asking you to take a look at it. There's plenty to look at with the Lions and say to yourself, I think they could be better at this. Absolutely. I think you could say that about every team in the NFL, whether they're 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2. But if you can't recognize that they're a better tackling team, I'm asking you just through 2 weeks now, that they're a better tackling team. They seem more disciplined. They're more physical up front. That New York front is physical on both sides of the ball. I know their offense isn't great. I mean, they finally scored a touchdown. They had gone how many straight quarters without scoring a touchdown? 5. New York had gone 5 straight quarters without a touchdown, dating back to last year. Well, they finally cashed in. That offensive line was the entire offensive line that returned from an 11-win season last year. Detroit mauled them, manhandled them. Detroit was better in the trenches on both sides of the ball. That should give you a lot of hope and a lot of reason to not necessarily buy in, but to argue for them. Maybe playing Atlanta is the litmus test, the ultimate litmus test for you. They're going to lose at some point. They're going to disappoint you at some point. Every team does. I want you to be able to look and say, you know what? They've got some guys who tackle well, Killebrew, Quinn, cover well, Slay, guys who are getting better at their position, Jared Davis, Tahir Whitehead, guys who get after the quarterback, Ansah, Zettel, strong pocket push from the middle, right? I mean, Jeremiah Ledbetter's out there playing and making things happen. Not putting up a ton of stats, but doing a nice job of forcing the edge. That's pretty damn good for a guy who was drafted in the 6th round. And I'm not saying it's perfect, because it's not. I would like to see them run the ball a little bit better. I would like Matt Stafford to have a little bit more time, right? I would like to see certain play calls in certain situations. I'd like a tight end screen once in a while. When's the last time we saw that? But you're seeing steps that should give you an encouraging sign of why this team can be better than you and I originally thought. Now, I'm not surprised at the 2-0 start. I'm really not. I told you at the beginning of the year, I said this in a podcast not too long ago, I said this is a team that I could see being at least 9-7, maybe a little bit better than that. I am not surprised by the start in which they have. I do expect a very good game against Atlanta, a tough one against the Vikings, a win against the Panthers. I worry about a little bit of an upset against the Saints. And then you get your bye as you get ready for the Steelers to invade. I said, you get 4-4 in your first 8, you should feel pretty good. I'm still on pace for that, because I think the back end, beating teams like the Browns and the Bears and the Ravens, and having a team like the Vikings at home, winning in Cincinnati, Green Bay at home, are all doable. You could see a possible 10-win season. I'm not getting into Super Bowl talk. That's all for that sensationalistic bullcrap. It's 2 weeks, man. There's still a long way to go. There's a ton of football yet to be played. You need guys to stay healthy just like everybody else. But if you believe, like I do, that the most impressive win so far this season is Kansas City in New England, and the most impressive team to start the year has been that same Chiefs ball club, let's just focus on the NFC. I think Detroit, along with, probably Atlanta, is as impressive as anybody else in this conference. And again, very small sample size. But you don't think people in Dallas are a little bit scratching their head going, holy crap, we just got our ass kicked in Denver by Trevor Siemian. The first week, we struggled a little bit against the Giants. It was only 19-3. Oh, and by the way, we've got a Hall of Fame running back calling out our best back, perhaps our best player, and Ezekiel Elliott, saying that he quit. I would guess there's some concerns now. It can go away by going from 1-1 to 5-1 real quick. I'm just telling you, there's issues in a lot of different places other than Detroit, and there's a lot of people right now singing the praises of this football team, and rightfully so. Hungry Howie's is one of our sponsors of Shep Shower and Shave. It's got one of the best fundraisers that you can get. It's called Dough Raiser. You can go to doughrazor.com to learn more and sign up. your sports team, your school group, your organization. You can sell Hungry Howie's pizza certificates to raise a ton of money for that organization. We're brought to you by Nate Knopf Designs. Find his work on Instagram or on Facebook. And we're brought to you by Northwestern Tech. HVAC is all they teach. They've perfected their hands-on program over the last 38 years. They've got flexible scheduling that allows you to work your job while training for an actual career. Call them at 248-358-4006 or go to northwesterntech.edu. I know the Tigers it's not a huge deal to talk about the Tigers these days because it's basically over, right? I mean, you've probably given up unless you're a diehard. It's a friend of mine and I were talking just the other day, diehard baseball. He wants to talk baseball, still follows the Tigers a little bit. I said, just so you know, they're 31 games out. I know. Okay, just so you know, they're a good 26 games under 500. I know. I want to see guys like Mikey Montook finish out the year. I want to see Dixon Machado. I want to see Jamer Candelario. I want to see James McCann continue to build on what he's doing. And I could be in the minority here, too, because I'm not a huge fan of Nick Castellanos playing right field, but I want to see him play right field. The uproar over Brad Ausmus not pulling him the other day, which drew some ire from people, I thought is ridiculous. Matthew Boyd was really good. I give him a ton of credit. But instead of people feeling a little bit better about a guy who's made a key adjustment in his delivery and a guy who threw a pitch in the ninth inning for the first time in his career, threw a career-high 121 pitches, had 8 2/3 of shutout ball, no-hit ball, guy about to finish his first ever complete game. The focus was on why didn't you pull Nick Castellanos for fill in the blank. It's not going to be Tyler Collins, right? You're going to shift Montook over to right and put Collins in left? Don't think so. Maybe Alex Presley? Maybe. I don't think he gets to that baseball. I don't think anybody gets to that baseball. So my buddy and I are talking. He says, yeah, but I wanted to see him make that move. I said, for what, though? Basically, what you're telling me is that a no-hitter for Matthew Boyd is more important than the development of Nick Castellanos. Nick Castellanos is going to play every single day for you in right field, you hope, next year. Right? And look what he's done offensively. He's been raking. He's been carrying this team. Primarily, the reason you even want to watch when Detroit gets into the batter's box is because of Nick Castellanos. You get a guy like that, but you want to take him out. And I'm not sure it has anything to do with confidence or anything like that. I get all these people telling me, yeah, but think about what that would do for Matt Boyd. What, you don't think a shutout helped Matt Boyd? You don't think Matt Boyd came into that clubhouse afterwards and said, man, I just threw a complete game. I just shut out a team. I know I can do this. You think it had to be the no-hitter? You don't think that outing gives him any confidence at all? Do you honestly, somebody said to me last night, yeah, but think about the celebration on the field, how much better it would have been. What do you mean? Matthew Boyd got 2 water showers. 2 jugs of Gatorade dumped over his head because of what he did. What more do you want on the baseball field? Give me a break, man. There were people with 25,000 on their feet cheering him. It doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Might have another shot at a no-hitter. Maybe that's the only... Is that Brad Ausmus' job? I got to make sure I get this guy the no-hitter. I saw somebody say his job is to put people in positions to succeed. He didn't do that. So the first 8 innings that Nick Castellanos in right field was a massive mistake. You're trying to teach guys, do you believe in this philosophy with me? At this time of year, when your team is completely out of it, when you're 62 up and 88 down, you're completely out of it. This is the time of year you want to see. I hear this from fans all the time. I want to see the young guys. I want to see what the young guys can do. Do you believe that? Because if you do, then you should also be buying into playing Nick Castellanos in right so he can learn to play the position. I believe. I want to see Dixon Machado play second or short. I want to see Jamer Candelario, whether he's having a good day or a bad day, play third base. And even though I don't agree with Nick Castellanos being a right fielder, I think he's a first baseman, I want to see him in right field to make sure he's getting ready for next year. Because this year doesn't matter. That's what I hear from people all the time. Shep, this season doesn't matter. Come on, man. I mean, they're 62 and 88. Who cares? Okay, then why do you care so much about the right field situation and taking him out and putting Alex Presley in for that final inning? Which, by the way, when I asked those people, when the move was being made, or wasn't being made in this case, did you think about it? And most of them respond, no, I didn't. They didn't even notice. You didn't notice until the ball was hit to right center field. Folks, I don't know if Brad Ausmus will be back, all right? I actually think this is the type of team that would actually suit him very well. He would be a good manager for a young team. It's ironic because at the time they hired him, it was probably the wrong move. They should have gone with a more veteran guy. At the time they're going to fire him possibly, it's actually a move where they should go with a guy like this because it's not a desirable job. It's not like if Dusty Baker got fired tomorrow, which he wouldn't because Washington's really good, but that he would look at Detroit and go, man, that's an intriguing job. I'd love to have that. This is a job for a younger manager, a guy who can cut his teeth a little bit and communicate with the young players. Andy Green in San Diego going through that, for example. This is the kind of job for that. Guy getting his first opportunity, Kevin Cash in Tampa when he first took over. Buck Showalter, a guy like Buck Showalter, a guy like Terry Francona, a guy like Joe Girardi, they ain't taking this job. And I'm just using them as examples, okay? I'm not saying that they're going to get fired, but you understand, you get where I'm coming from here. Mike Matheny ain't taking this job if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs. I think he's a good manager. I'd love to have him. It's not an appealing job. This is a job for a guy like Brad Ausmus who gets a first crack at it. So it's ironic in that regard. But he didn't lose the no-hitter for Matthew Boyd. Tim Anderson hit the double in the gap. He's the one who spoiled the no-hitter. Glad you've listened to Shep, Shower, and Shave. You can find us on iTunes, on YouTube. We love coming in here to State Champs in Southfield, where we do our recording. And we love our sponsors, too. Northwestern Tech, Nate Knopf Designs, and Hungry Howie's. We'll do it again later in the week. Thanks for listening to this edition of Shep, Shower, and Shave.